Hello and welcome again to Charles Kelly Money Tips. Hope you're all having a great day. Today I want to talk about general things that are happening in the news. The markets, it seems, have settled down. These are the stock markets, which were a bit turbulent when the Trump and China trade war seemed to be heating up. We now have a situation where they seem to be coming back to the table. China has scrapped some of the US tariffs ahead of trade talks. So China clearly wants to talk. I don't think China is in a position to really go all out on this because they obviously export a lot more to America than the other way around. And I think there was an imbalance there, and Trump has done something to try and question that and do something about it. So good on Trump. I know a lot of people don't like Trump, but he is the only one that appears to be standing up to this dominant China that is taking over countries and taking over islands in the South China Sea and around the Philippines and Vietnam, and just they've got to be reined in a little bit, I think. So that's good news. Now the London Stock Exchange, which is itself a publicly traded company, a PLC, has received a takeover bid from Hong Kong, and it's valued at 32 billion. That's just the stock exchange that deals with all the transactions, and it's amazing how much that one company is worth. I don't know whether that will go through. British Airways must be, it's cost, this strike is costing them millions and millions of pounds. The pilots have gone on strike, in a season where people are coming back from holiday after the summer and stuff like that. And a lot of people are stranded abroad, and personally, I think it's disgusting because these pilots have amongst the best pay conditions in the industry, and you compare it to, say, a budget airline like Ryanair and EasyJet. You could understand why they would be complaining, but BA have got very good terms and conditions. They've got very good pensions, etc., and they're going on strike, ruining people's holidays. And again, it's this union behind them that are helping to spur this on. So it's been a massive. It's caused a massive amount of damage to British Airways brand. I've always liked flying British Airways. I've always trusted them. They're a trusted brand and a very good airline. And this is really damaging their brand. So I personally think these pilots should all be sacked and just replace them and get rid of them. And I know you can't really do that under law, and it would be impractical anyway. But I think Ronald Reagan once, when all the air traffic controllers went on strike, he said, well, we'll just get rid of you and bring in new people. I'm not sure what happened about that, but anyway, that's my view on that. Now, retailers have had a bad time in England, in UK, in the first half of this year. They've shut down 2,870 stores in the first half of 2019. Now, we've talked about this before, and I said if you don't use your local store, you're going to lose them. If you just keep shopping online or going for these deliveries and Tesco delivery and Deliveroo and Just Eat, you start using these shops and getting out and getting off your backside and walk into shops, these shops are going to go and they'll be finished, and they'll end up just being houses and flats. So we've got to do something to really save our high street, I think, because it will be a terrible thing for the high street just to die, because to be fair, they are paying a lot of tax, a lot of council tax and rates and that sort of thing, whereas Amazon are not paying this. So they can afford to run on a cheaper basis, just one warehouse, sending stuff to you, white vans running around everywhere for a pittance usually. So, yeah, I agree sometimes you have to buy stuff on Amazon, but just remember that if you keep doing that, the shops will go and that'll be it. You won't have any more shops left. So that's just my rant about shops today. Now, there's a report come out saying that more and more bailiffs are being used to chase unpaid parking fines. Now, I don't know if you know what a bailiff is. A bailiff is a court-appointed, you could call them an officer, court-appointed officer, but actually they are usually private companies, often quite thuggish type of people, but some of the bailiffs are quite normal people as well, but they tend to be big burly guys who go, we're going to take your car away if you don't pay this fine and that sort of thing. But more and more councils are using these bailiffs to pay unpaid, to pursue people who don't pay their parking fines, and it's risen by 20% in England and Wales. This is according to a debt charity. Now, parking debts pass from councils to enforcement agencies on nearly 1.1 million occasions. This means that councils are not prepared to chase these debts themselves, they just pass them over to bailiffs, which then immediately adds on a cost to that ticket. So a ticket that might cost, say, £30, if you start putting it over to a bailiff, it could double overnight, and then the bailiff's going to come round, and if they don't get their way, they'll take things away, and you'll have further costs. So one ticket could end up, in theory, running to thousands of pounds. So just be careful there. If you have any tickets or fines, even if you dispute them, then make sure you pay them first, and then worry about disputing them, or go through the legal process to dispute them. And I think it's the same for a lot of small bills. If you're in dispute over the bill, it's normally better to pay the bill, especially if it's a water bill or an electricity bill, utility, that sort of thing. Pay the bill, then argue about it, because if you don't pay the bill, they'll register judgments and defaults against you, or they'll send out bailiffs and take further action, which will then cost you a hell of a lot more money. Okay, so that's that. Just watch out for that. And the financial word of the day is revenue and profit. Now, revenues in a business means the amount of money you've got coming in from the sale of your goods and services. That would be revenue. Sometimes it's called turnover. And then profit is the amount after deduction of expenses that you would have left over. So if you were buying goods for £100,000 and then you'd sold them for £200,000, your £200,000 would be your revenue, and then you deduct your costs, which will be £100,000. You're left with £100,000. That would be your gross profit, and then you would have your net profit after paying tax. So there's an old saying that turnover is vanity, profit is sanity, meaning that any company can have a very, very high turnover, but unless they watch their costs, they might not have very much in profit. Now, I was at a function last night, and companies were trying to raise millions of pounds and euros based on the future profits of a business when they haven't even made any profits. Some of them hadn't even made any turnover yet. They were just in the development stage of the business. So I would say to some of those, let's see some profit before you start asking me to invest in your business. Incidentally, companies like Uber, who've just floated on the market and apparently worth 80 billion. And I say apparently because I wouldn't pay 80 billion for them. They haven't made a profit yet. They're making losses every quarter. Tesla, I don't think, has made a profit, or they may have just made a profit. Twitter didn't make a profit for years, and yet money was poured into them. And I say money was poured into them, they were sold to investors on the stock market. So someone at some stage will have to bear that cost. So just be careful when you invest in a company to look at the bottom line, and that's the profit. What are they actually making? Because you can make all this turnover, but what is left over after you've paid out the expenses and the salaries and the rent and the cost of supplying the goods and all the rest of it? What is left? It's the profit that really matters, not the turnover or just the revenue. The revenue is still important because it will show to investors what revenue is coming in. And at least you could identify if there is a problem. If the revenue is going up but the profit's going down, at least you can see what the problem is. Sometimes you can make less revenue but make more profit because you're perhaps serving less customers. You're putting your prices up, which means that you can charge a bit more and end up with more profit. So it's not just about the revenue, but when you're investing in the company, you look at all the things like the revenue, the gross profit, the net profit, the cash input, the cash output, what's left, what debts there are, how much you're paying in interest in debts, how are you collecting those debts, how long is the aged debtor list, i.e. how long has it taken you to get your money in from people that you've supplied. So that's all for now. Thanks for listening. This is Charles Kelly bringing you money tips to help you save, earn, invest, accumulate and enjoy more money.